I got a really strange and scary Bigfoot encounter for you tonight. I've got James with me. And when James was just a kid on their property in Washington, in the state of Washington, in the middle of nowhere, he started to have some strange encounters that he just couldn't explain. Seeing these creatures outside of his window, around the property. Even one night, he and a buddy were coming back to the house, and they got chased back to their house by one of these creatures. And this goes on throughout his youth, and we're going to talk about all of that. But before I do, I just want to say thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate all the support. I could not do this without you. But if you've got an encounter you would like to send me, I'd love to hear it. You can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. But let's jump right into the stories.
I was 16. I lived in the town of North Bend, but I lived in a neighborhood called the Wilderness Rim. Sounds just like it is. It was literally the rim of the wilderness because it's up against BLM land. I was actually outside of the neighborhood, directly up against BLM land. We're already on a mountain, but then there's like another mountainside that our double wide trailer was like up against. And personally, we had about 10 acres, but once you crossed our property line, it was hundreds of thousands of acres of just BLM land. It was me and my buddy Zach and 3 other of my buddies. We were in my RV, and my parents said that we could just hang out in it, just have fun, hang out. My buddy Zach at like around midnight said that he was going to go back to his house and come right back. And so me and my other friends, we weren't really much of drinkers, but we were like just smoking and hanging out. And I heard something outside, and it like really strongly knocked, almost like hit the side of the door. And we all kind of like jumped, and we were like, what's that? I was like, it must be Zach. So I go up to the door, and when I opened it, I saw like, I mean, it was fast. I mean, it was, as soon as I opened that door, it was like, it was out of there. But I saw the back of like a leg, and there was like a dark figure, and it was just gone. Like, it was gone so fast. And right then and there, funny enough, my buddy Zach was coming up the driveway. He had actually borrowed my car to go to his house and come back because he didn't have a car at the time. And I kind of told him, I was like, did you just get here? He's like, yeah. Did someone came to my door and knocked? Like something hit my door. It's getting like really late. So just about everybody leaves, and it's like 5 a.m. And I tell my buddy Zach, I'll give you a ride home. So I get into my mom was letting me use their Suburban. That was like what I was driving when I was 16. So we get into the Suburban, and I drive him home, and I drop him off, and it's like 5:30, 5:40 in the morning. So it's becoming dawn, so the sun's coming up. And I drive up my driveway, but I didn't live in the actual neighborhood. Like halfway up my driveway, there was a post, which is basically a marker, and then it goes gravel. So I lived outside of the neighborhood. So my driveway was pretty long. It's like 500 feet or something. Anyways, I'm driving up the driveway, and we have an addition on our double wide trailer, and that's like where I was staying at the time. And I should probably also add that nobody was home. Like, my dad had moved out. My mom was like with her new boyfriend, and my little brother, he was gone too. Like, nobody's home. It's just me. And I drive up there, and I see like these dark figures inside of my room, because I have a sliding glass door. The sliding glass door was open. There are dark figures in my room. And as I look behind, I just catch it in my rearview mirror, and I see behind me that there's another dark figure at like the end of my driveway, and it starts running up towards my car. And so I threw the thing in reverse and start driving down the driveway as fast as I can, because at this point, I thought they were people. As I'm taking off down the driveway, the dark figure that was running towards my car ended up like smacking the side of the door. And then I get all the way down to the end of my driveway, and I jump out, and I run to my neighbor's house, and I'm banging on the door, and I'm like, dude, you need to call 911 right now. Someone broke into my house. Someone just hit the side of my car. And that's when the police showed up, I took him to the sliding glass door, and the door is open. I had a few rifles that were supposed to be under my bed, and like they were like on top of my bed. So I'm like, it didn't take anything, which is weird, but like there was stuff in my room that had been moved, and I just didn't. That was extremely weird. Things were moved, things were different, nothing was taken, and I'm trying to tell the police what happened, and they brought a canine up, and there was a little spot in the driveway where it starts that it wouldn't like it looked like someone had been sitting in there. Like just you could tell that the bushes were all kind of matted down. It just looked like someone was sitting there. And but the dog didn't hit on anything, and they were just telling me it's like they're just looking at me like I'm crazy. They're like, I don't know what to tell you, but you know, if anything else happens, let us know. And they leave. And so then I go to see my buddy, and I'm like, yeah, I went home and I told him everything happened. He's like, dude, I told you I was seeing things. Like, and I told him, I was like, yeah, but I thought that's just it. I thought you're just seeing things. Like, I don't know. But anyways, I believe you now. And so me and him started hanging out like every single day, but we were staying up all night and then sleeping during the day. Like, you know, either he was at my place or I was at his place. But like when it got dark, we were like together. Whatever it was, it just scared the hell out of all of us. In Wilderness Rim, it's just like the road is one big circle, but there's a green belt. So to get to our friends' houses faster, we would just run through the green belt, and it was just faster to do that. And as we were walking, I could see a dark figure out of the corner of my eye, and I turned and looked at it, and it was just like behind this tree, like, and it was looking at us, and I was just like, I didn't even know what to think, but I grabbed my buddy by the shoulder, and and we were just both looking at it. Living in the woods, I grew up with guns and whatnot, but yeah, my dad bought me like a little 22 Magnum revolver when I was 13, and so I started like carrying it with me because I was afraid. I was like, I just wanted something. I just started carrying it with me, which I never really did before. And my dad would have been probably mad at me if he knew if I was doing it. But I just remember grabbing that thing, and me and him, we start like running to the green belt. And by the time I got to the green belt, I kind of just stopped and turned around because I was like, I just wanted to make sure nothing was still following us. And I could see shadows up against the house, and I could like hear things moving. And I was just, I don't know, my whole reality was like breaking at this point. It was just so weird. So we run through the green belt, and my buddy Zach is in front of me, and he's just like, just run as fast as you can, like don't stop. And we're running, 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 running. And we get out of the green belt, and we get to his house, and his house is like about 50 or 60 feet from the actual brush line of that green belt. And I turn back around, and I'm like making sure nothing's there as my buddy unlocks the door, because he like locked the door and we left. And he opened the door, and he's like, get inside. So I get inside, and he turns around to like lock the door. And as he was going to lock the door, something came up and just hit it. Like I turned around, and the door just went wham and like hit my buddy in the face. And then he's like started screaming, and he's pushing the door, and then I hit the door with him, and then he locked it. And I'm like looking out the window because the door's here and there's a window here. And yeah, I could see a dark figure running off. Well, me and Zach, I went and talked to my older friends. We were like 16 at the time, and we had some older friends. I told them what happened at my house. I told them what happened in the green belt. I told them that I was seeing exactly what Zach was telling me he was seeing. And they were like, what are you even talking about? They told me and Zach, like, the next time you think someone is following you, you come straight to my house. And I was like, okay, like next time we're being followed, we're coming to your house. And so a few days later, sure enough, we were walking to my house, and we see those dark figures again. My buddy looks at me, he's like, run through Ricky's yard. That was my other friend. He was like, our other friend. So that's what we did. We like ran through Ricky's yard, and my buddy Zach jumps the fence to our older friend's house. And I look back and I see three figures, like two figures coming from the right and two figures coming from the left. He lived in a trailer too, like a double wide. And so then I jump the fence, and it's like 2 a.m. in the morning and they're sleeping. So we end up pounding on his sliding glass door, and they're like, "Why are you beating on my door? It's 2 a.m. in the morning." Like he just thought we were insane. And so we just told him, like, "Dude, look over that fence, like go up to that fence. Like there are people following us." I don't believe they're people anymore. But at the time that's kind of what I thought. I didn't know really what to think. And dude, they were so mad. But my buddy Antonio, he goes up to that fence and he looks over it and he jumps, like he literally jumps off the fence, runs inside and comes out with a rifle, and he's looking at us like, "You guys need to leave. You guys need to leave right now. Like, you guys get out of here." He's swearing at us, and I mean, the look on his face was very concerning. And our other friend who lived with Tony, his name was also Zach, but he's like, "What's going on?" Like da 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 da. And Tony's just like, "Take these two kids back to their house. Like, do it now. Don't go unarmed." And so he took us back to Zach's house, and yeah, sure enough, he still didn't really know what was going on, but sure enough, like we heard something and then saw something, and then the look on his face totally changed, and he's just like, "What is going on? Like, why are these things?" It didn't make any sense to any of us, but I think they were less mad at us after they found out that we weren't like lying to them. One night, I ended up going to my house. My mom had moved back into the house, and her like boyfriend was in living in the house too, and like we didn't really get along. And I had a room in the house, but like her boyfriend was like, "Oh, you got to be home at 10 o'clock or I'm gonna lock the door," kind of thing. So I come home at like 10:30, and the door is locked. And as I'm pounding on the door, yelling at them to open it, I hear the noises, and then I see like I see the dark figure like coming. It was under my deck, and I heard it run underneath me, and then I could see it. I just saw it like come right around the railing of the stairs. And at that point, I kick that door and I go running in there, and I'm yelling at him like, just crazy stuff, right? Just frightened for my life. And then my step my stepdad and mom called the police because I just kicked their door in. And the stepdad, who was a boyfriend at the time, we did not get along. And so then the police come, and I tell the police, I'm like, "Well, there was someone was following me. The door's locked. I was scared for my life. I kicked it in. I live here, by the way. Like, I have a residence here." And so the police were like, they showed up, but they didn't like arrest me or anything. But they did call my friend. They did call my friend Zach. I was like, "If you don't believe me, you can call my friend." So he called my friend and was like, "Hey, your buddy just like kicked in the door to his home, and his mom and the boyfriend called the police, and we're here, and he's saying that he kicked the door in because he's being followed by someone." And I could hear my buddy on the phone being like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely being followed by someone," and all this. And it was like the second time they've been there, you know and I don't think the cops, I don't know what the cops really believed. I don't really care either way. But at that point, I had moved all my stuff out of my room and down to the bottom of my property because my dad had moved. When my parents got divorced, my dad moved out of the house and he moved to the bottom of our property because like we have an upper part of our property and we have a lower part. We have like two driveways. So we got water power and like sewer hooked down there. And he was like living in his like RV. There was another small RV that we had. He kept the small RV, but he bought the bigger one to live in. So I just moved all my stuff into the little RV, and I started to stay in there. Well, when I was staying in there, same thing. I like there was something circling, and I could hear it. looking, looking out the curtain of my RV, and I can see a dark figure out there. And at this time, I had like every single rifle I owned locked and loaded, and like in my shower. Um, but for some reason, it didn't make me feel. It didn't make me. I mean, it made me feel way safer, but I was still scared. I was still terrified. And so I ended up like laying on the horn and waking my dad up at like 2 a.m. And I just told him straight up. I told him everything that was going on. He looked at me crazy, thought I was crazy. And I asked him, I was like, can I just move my stuff into your RV? Can I just stay here in your RV? And he's like, sure, I guess. Just don't be coming home late and waking me up. And I was like, all right, all right. So I moved into his RV and started staying in that RV. And fast forward a few days later, I come home and my dad, I come home late too. It's like midnight or later. I come home late and my dad's like usually always asleep by then. He would go to sleep at like 10 o'clock. So I come home at like past midnight and the light's on and he's sitting in his chair. And I was like, what the heck's going on? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And I walk through the door and my dad tells me to sit down. And he just told me straight up, he's like, just so you know, I'm about to buy like a Glock. Not really sure what Glock I'm gonna get, but I'm gonna get another pistol because we had a lot of rifles. I had my small caliber revolver, but he was talking about getting a Glock chambered in like 45 or something, like. And I was like, why? And he's like, someone was in your RV. I went up to the RV and your radio was on. Things like were just laying out that I normally wouldn't just have laying out. But he said when he opened the door, he could hear it. Like he could hear someone in the RV on the other side of the door. And as he opened it, something jumped out of the window and was just gone. Just gone. And that's all he really ever talked about it. But he even told me, he's like, I don't know what you're doing or what you're involved in or why these things even happen, but it's like, someone's gonna get shot if they come back here. And I was like, well, I don't know who they are. So, because I think that's in a way kind of what he was thinking. He's like, I don't know. He was just confused about the whole thing. But I did ask him. I'm like, is there any way it was a person? He's like, well, what else would it be? And I'm like, well, you're telling me that it was behind the door and it was in there and then it was just gone like that. And then yeah, that we didn't really talk about it a whole lot, but he pretty much told me that he believed. He's like, I believe you now. There's something going on. It's weird. All I know is that when I see one of these things and I run after it, it's gone in a blink of an eye. When I was 17, I moved out of Wilderness Rim and I went to go live with my aunt for a little bit. It wasn't until I was 24. I was living in Seattle at the time and I was 24. And my I lived in South Center. If anybody knows about Seattle, like White Center is like it's not a good place to live. And so my apartment complex had been shot up like multiple times, but I remember coming home at like midnight on July 4th and it had been shot up again and there's just like bullets in the side of the building, shell casings everywhere. And my car was getting keyed and someone smacked the side of my motorcycle gas tank with a hammer. And I'm just like, dude, I'm sick of this. I gotta get out of here. So I ended up calling my mom. She had a bunch of duplexes and she would rent them out. So I called her. I was like, hey, it's not working here. And I told her everything that was happening. And I asked her, I was like, do you have a place where I can move in right now and I'll pay rent, obviously? And she had told me, well, the North Bend house is empty. And it's been empty for like 2-3 years, like 2.5 years it had been empty, which is the childhood home that I grew up in. I was also homeschooled as a kid too, so me and my two other brothers, we know those woods like the back of our hand. Um, and so I was like, well, yeah, that'd be great. I would love to move into the North Bend home. before I moved up there, I was talking to my buddy Danny because I needed someone to like. I didn't want to live there by myself and pay the full rent. So I was at the casino with my buddy Danny, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna move into the North Bend house, and I was wondering if you wanted to move in with me, and we'll pay rent together, and we're just, if you're interested." He said yes, and so I was like, "All right, I mean, you want to go check it out?" He's like, "Yeah, let's go check it out." So it's like 10 o'clock when we left the casino, and we get up to the house about 10:30. And like I said, there was a top part of I have two driveways. So the top part of the property is just a main driveway, and then the bottom of the property there was like another little driveway that took you to like the flat part of the bottom of the property. But then there's also a little trail that you could drive your car up to get into our big yard, which is about an acre and a half. And so we drive up into the yard, and we get out of the yard. And I also had my buddy Justin with me. He was quite a bit older though. But we're just smoking, hanging out. And I was like, yeah, dude, like check out this huge yard we have. And like it's a double wide trailer, but it has additions on it. And it's a really nice place. I grew up here as a kid. Like I'm really excited to move back into this house. And we're just talking, and I see a blue light, and it's up on the hillside, and it's at the bottom of our property where our chicken coop is, but like 200 plus feet away from it. So like not quite a football's length, but like maybe 65 or 70 yards, and from our chicken coop. And I just think it's a lost hiker because Rattlesnake Ridge which is a popular hiking place, is like a few miles away. But if you went off the beaten path and got lost, I could see how someone could end up there. I grew up there and never had that happen before, but I just don't know what to think. I just think it's a person with a flashlight. So I'm yelling at this light. I'm like, "Hey, are you lost? Like, come down here. I'll help you. Like, I mean, you're trespassing right now. You're not supposed to be on this property. But if you're, come on down here. We'll help you out if you need help." And as I'm talking to this thing, it's just moving, and it's not saying anything back. And it starts to frustrate me. I'm like, why is this person not replying to me? And I yelled again. I'm like, okay, so you're just straight up trespassing now, and now I'm getting angry. Like, come down here now. Like, I'm starting to like yell and curse at it. I'm getting angry. I think it's a person, and they're just not replying to me for some reason. Well, the light had moved from where it's at to my chicken coop, which was like 200 plus feet, like 60, 70 yards. It moved that far in a blink of an eye. It just like that fast. I mean, faster than a cougar could run or jump or pounce. It was just a blink of an eye. It moved 200 plus feet, and it landed on a deer. I know this because I've hunted deer. I've shot a deer and didn't kill it, and it's like, yeah, it makes a terrible noise. And that's exactly what I heard. That light moved, and then it landed on a deer, and the deer was like bellowing, and not for very long though. And the noise stopped, and I look over at my buddy Danny, and he's like in the car, and my buddy Justin's like almost in tears. I just don't even know what to think. I'm like freaking out too. So we all get into the car, and here's the worst part. That light is now by the chicken coop, which is 10 feet from the trail slash small road that I have to drive down to get out of the bottom of my property. And so we get in the car, and I start driving down there, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna drive towards it?" And I'm like, "I can't. This is the only way we can get out of my yard." And so we drive out of there as fast as we can. My buddy Justin's freaking out. He just wants to go home. Most of the time I'm unarmed. So I told my buddy Danny, I was like, we're gonna go back to the place I'm staying currently, and we're gonna get armed, and we're gonna come back. Cause I want to know what that was. And my buddy Justin's like, drop me off. I'm not going. So we drop him off. I had a 45 long Colt at the time. So we just go and get that pistol. And I had a rifle but didn't grab it. I really wasn't too concerned. I just figured I need the one pistol. We go back and we drive back up into the yard. And as I'm coming around the corner of the trail into the main yard, I see nine bucks had conjugated together in a small like herd in the center of my yard. And I just looked at my friend like, these are these are deer. Deer don't conjugate together, especially since they're all bucks and they're all in the center of my yard. And I drive up towards them and they don't move. They don't move at all. And I come right up against them and honk the horn, and they stood up and they started running like circles around the yard. And a few of them got close to the brush line and just turned right back. But for whatever reason, they were totally more scared of what was in the brush line than me in my car, like honking at them. Because I was just like, "What's the deal? I don't understand." But they were just running around my yard. They didn't want to leave my yard. It was yeah, that was just totally weird and crazy to me because I'd never seen deer do that before. And so I I went up to my neighbor. My neighbor had he was about his house was probably about 120 or 130 yards from my trailer. And I went up to talk to him. He's an ex-fireman and now he does search and rescue. And he's one of those guys that does it during the night, so he sleeps all day and then he's like night shift, so he's always awake during the night. But I go up there and I talk to him. I'm like, "Can I bend your ear on something? Because something weird happened and I don't have any explanation for it." He's like, "Well, yeah, what's up?" And I'm like, "Is there any reason or even possibility that a game warden or whoever would put a light on like the collar of a cougar?" And he's like, "No, that's if someone put a light on a collar of a cougar, it would starve to death. Like they wouldn't be able to like hunt." And I was like, "Right? That doesn't." And even if he said yes, a cougar is fast, but I don't think it's gonna leap 200 feet in like a blink of an eye. Yeah, I didn't really tell him everything that was going on at that time. I just kind of was like, it was just weird. Literally a week later, me and Danny moved into the house, into the home. We had to do a bunch of cleaning and clearing, but we got my room set up and we are just sitting in my room. And I don't think there was any particular reason why we went outside. I think we just went outside to smoke a cigarette or something. But we had gone outside and heard the bushes move. And at this point, I'm like, that's probably a deer. But then I heard like five different bushes moving. And I'm like, well, maybe it's coyotes. And the thing about animals is their eyes shine, right? Like you hit them with a spotlight, you hit them with a floodlight, like their eyes light up. So I go in there and I give my buddy a rifle, and I had a 9mm in my hand, but I also had like a really powerful flashlight. And I'm like, every time like I could hear exactly where they are, and I'm trying to hit them with a light, but I'm not getting any eye shine. I'm not really seeing anything. And they keep getting closer and closer. And they were about, I mean, I want to say they got to almost 15 feet, if less, to the brush line. I threw my flashlight down and cocked my pistol. My buddy had my 30-30 and he racked one. And all of a sudden, like as soon as we did that, because I was like, looked at my buddy Danny, I was like, don't shoot unless I shoot. If I shoot, you shoot, but like don't shoot unless I shoot. And as soon as we loaded those weapons, they stopped coming towards. And then I raised my pistol and my buddy raised his rifle, and I just told him, I'm like, if you hear me fire, you fire too. And it was just weird, but it stopped, and then they slowly kind of just went back up the hillside and disappeared. And I was thinking, like, the only other thing that travels in packs are coyotes, and I'm like, those weren't coyotes. Like they just weren't coyotes, and definitely wasn't deer. Definitely wasn't bears. I mean, literally the only thing that travels in packs like that is coyotes, and they typically make noise and they have eye shine. Like if that was a coyote that close, like it definitely would have lit his eyes up, and that was kind of the start to like what had continued happening. So I had two more people move in, and I kind of told them the deal, and they're like they'd like watch me like walk outside with my gun all the time, and my buddy his name was Max, and the other and Max's buddy Bryson, but Max would be like, don't pay any attention to James. He's crazy. He thinks there's like aliens and Bigfoot, and he just walks around with a gun a lot, and he'll be outside, and just ignore him. I was on my way home, and I'm like 5 minutes from the house one night when I get a phone call from him, and he's like, "Where's your rifle? Like, I need your rifle. Like, what's the code to your safe?" And I'm like, "Well, the rifle's under the bed. It's not even in the safe." And are you gonna tell me what's going on? He's like, how far? Like, where are you? And I told him, I'm like, I'm pulling in the neighborhood, so I'm like 5 minutes away. He's like, just get here right now. So I get up there, and the dude's like clenching my rifle and like staring out his bedroom door. And he had a girlfriend living with him at the time too, and she's like in the corner, like just they looked white as ghosts. Like I've never seen someone's skin like so pale. And he told me straight up that someone or something had walked up the stairs, and they thought it was me, and it started to walk down towards their window because it came up the stairs of the deck and started walking down the deck. And he saw a dark figure come to his window, but then they were like blinded by a blue light. And I'm like, what is up with this blue light? I don't understand the light, because at first I was kind of leaning towards like, is this the same thing that was happening to me when I was 17? Because a part of me thinks that was more spiritual, and a part of me thinks that what's happening to me currently when I was 24 was like maybe Bigfoot related, but the lights didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, what like Bigfoot and lights? I don't really know. I just knew something big, dark, and yeah, it was crazy. But he ended up changing his mind after that because he had seen something and it freaked him out. And shortly after that, I was dead asleep, and it's like 2 a.m. And this was probably about a week later. But he came running to my bedroom door and woke me up. And I'm like, 2 a.m. in the morning, man. What do you want? He's like, go outside right now. And I was like, okay. And I opened my door. Apparently, it had like roared or screamed to make a noise to wake my roommate up. But when I opened the door and went outside, I didn't hear anything at first. But my dog was acting really weird, because my dog was like, when he woke me up, my dog's usually with me, but my dog was at like the edge of the hallway, and he was like looking through our main big window out into the deck, like just staring out that window, and he was like whimpering and just acting really scared. But anyways, I opened the door and I'm like, "Come on, Rocco, let's go." And and I turn around because he's under the table, and he was a gladiator Dober. He was like a really big Doberman, about 80 pounds, and he wasn't afraid of anything, man. Like I've seen this dog, him him and my brother's bird dog would chase after bears. I mean, fearless dog, right? And he's under the table cowering, and I could not get him to come outside with me for the life of me. So eventually I just kind of drug him outside with me, just because I just didn't want something to come up behind me. So I like drug him outside, and I was like, come on, Rocco, like stop acting weird, come on, get it with it. And I go out into my yard, and I start walking towards the brush line, and my neighbors, who are that do search and rescue, they sleep all day, stay up all night, because that's just the way his job works. He works during the night. So when he's not working, he's usually like on his deck drinking beers with his buddy. And they were that night when I was out there. And all of a sudden, I hear a super loud, blood curdling scream. Like it sounded exactly like a lady, but way, way, way too loud. It was up the hillside a few hundred yards. So, I mean, it was way up the hillside, and it sounded like a lady screaming in my ear. Because I know foxes do something similar. And I know this because I've seen foxes and I've heard them. And a fox sounds just like a lady screaming bloody murder, but not that loud. And it was a little bit different. Like, I know for a fact it wasn't a fox. And I know it's not a cougar either, because the cougar is just not the same sound. Um, and it was just so loud. Like, whatever was screaming, making this noise, it was a couple hundred yards away, and it sounded like it was in my ear. It was just deafening. And then it was followed by like a loud roar. And my neighbor yells down to me, because he lived like up the hillside more, so his house is above my house. He yells down to me. He's like, "What are you doing, man? Are you messing with me? Are you playing like what's going on down there?" And I yell back up at him. I'm like, "I just woke up. Like, I'm not. Are you messing with me? Like, I'm not doing nothing." And he's yelling at me. We're yelling back to each other. And he's like, we're both just so confused. And something goes flying by my head, just like I felt like I could hear something breaking the brush line, and then it went flying by my head. I didn't know what it was at that exact time because it's dark out. And when that happened, I pulled my pistol, um, and I purposely shot in the direction. Like, I could have shot directly at it, but I mean, I was just always afraid. I was like, what if I hit this thing and there's like, I was just scared. I was like, I don't want to shoot something if I don't know what it is. Like, you pull that trigger, you can't unpull it. So I'm scared, but instead of shooting directly in its direction, I shot off to the left of it, 2 rounds, just pop, pop, just to let you know, hey, I'm armed, I'm not scared. Like, I was terrified, but just kind of like in a defensive move, like something just went flying by my head. And then right after that, it comes running down the hillside, and between our two houses, our two trailers, and down, like, and down kind of into the neighborhood. But before into the neighborhood, you could hear it like run off to the left. And my neighbor has like 20 acres, so he had twice the property of me. But it came from the hillside, down the hillside, and then between our houses in a matter of seconds. And it was just so loud. Like, it wasn't like a deer where they're so graceful and they're like hopping along. I mean, it literally sounded like a rhinoceros just plowing through brush, and it moved so incredibly fast. I was just like, it was just the craziest thing. And so I went to go talk to my neighbor the next day, and I told him, I'm like, what do you think that was? He's like, dude, I've been doing I know these woods like the back of my hand. Like, I've lived in the woods. Like, he's a search and rescue guy. I mean, he's been like, he's just like me. He grew up in the wilderness, but he's a lot older. And he's like, I have never in my life heard that kind of a scream, or that kind of like, I've never experienced anything like that. And I have no idea what it was. I just hope it doesn't ever happen again or come back. Like, that was just, I don't know what to say. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what to say either. We both kind of just left it at that. Um, but I was curious, so I went back out into the yard the next morning, and I saw like this huge rock that was probably like three of my fists. Like, it was a good size, big rock. I mean, it probably weighed like 10 pounds. Like, if a human were to throw it that hard, it'd probably blow out your shoulder. It was, you know, that thing, that's what went flying by my head last night. Like, it threw something at me. I go up to the brush line, and when I was homeschooled growing up, me and my two brothers, we would build tree forts, and we'd go all over those woods, and we had paintballs and BB guns, so we'd make like, we were just always exploring the woods. But we had three main trails. We had a main trail down at the bottom of our property by our pond, and then we had another trail like in the middle of our property, and then we had another trail on our upper property. I went to the middle trail and jumped my little fence and then started to walk up the trail. And I noticed that there were a dozen plus more trails that I had never seen and that I had never made. And it was just a maze full of trails. And I'm just looking at all these trails like, what are all these trails doing here, man? Like, this is so crazy. That really freaked me out. I was like, someone's coming onto my property and they're like making all these trails. I never found any footprints. There's all these trails, right? And there'd be these big branches that were just like snapped off and removed. And it was like, but I never saw any footprints. Never saw any footprints. Never saw any eye shine. There was this big tree, an evergreen tree, it had thousands and thousands, millions, trillions of evergreen trees in Washington, right? So there's this big evergreen tree that was by my front door of my bedroom. And something had grabbed the branches higher up on the tree and snapped them and then stuck them like into the ground and had the branches like leaning against the tree. And I'm just like, well, that's kind of weird. Why is that? Why would that be there? It's like a little blind. It's like a blind for someone to just sit and watch. I always am curious. I'm just curious. I'm just like, if not armed and willing to show this thing that I can protect myself, I wonder how far they would have been willing to go. I mean, there were times in the night where I just felt like something was watching me out the window. And where I lived, gunfire is no big deal. I mean, you hear gunfire all the time. It's like you shoot guns, nothing happens, no one cares. But there'd be times where I think something's watching me, and I'd walk out into the deck and just pop a couple random rounds off into the woods because I felt like I needed to be like, this thing needs to know I'm not just gonna let it intimidate me, even though I was terrified. But one of the weirdest things that had happened was in Wilderness Rim, we have lots of bears, like tons of bears. I remember growing up, there would be at least 3, 4 mothers that would have 2 or 3 cubs. And sometimes we'd even see them together and there'd just be big groups of bears, but bears are no big deal. Um, they were quite used to us people and we were quite used to them. Like in the summertime, it'd be just like seeing a deer. I got too close to one's cubs once and they kind of like huffed and puffed at me, but even still, I just backed up but they're, you know, really used to humans and humans pretty used to them. And there's just bear central. And I remember talking to my friend, my buddy Ray, and we were sitting at my kitchen counter, and it was like it's getting to be like late August, and so September's coming up, and I kind of looked at him and I'm like, you know what I was thinking about and kind of noticed today? And he's like, what's up? Where are the bears? And he's like, what? I was like, where are the bears? Like, it's been all summer long and we haven't seen a single bear. That is weird. It's like every single summer there are bears everywhere. We didn't see a single bear this summer. Like, they're just gone. I want to say the craziest thing I saw, this was like October. I was actually just about to move out of the house. This was like a month before I moved out, but I was because my mom was getting ready to sell that house and property. But it's like October and 11:30 at night, and so it had been dark for hours. Like it's at that time of season, it gets dark at like 8 o'clock, maybe even earlier. So it had been like pitch black for hours. And we get home, I pull up into the driveway, and me and my buddy Ray, we were the only two living at the house at this point. I already kicked everyone out because my mom was getting ready to sell the place. But Ray's in front of me and he opens the door and he goes to sit down by the fire stove, and I walk into the kitchen, and my kitchen window you can see all the way down my driveway. As I'm walking to the kitchen, I look out the window and it's like dusk. Like it literally looks like the sun had just gone down and it's about to get dark, but it's not dark. And I was like, that's the weirdest, what? And so I go running to the front door because I want to go outside. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I run to the front door and I look down my yard. So I have about an acre and a half yards, like 100 yards about. So like 300 feet away, maybe a little further. But I look down my yard, down my where the bottom of my property is, and there's a glowing orange ball with these like dark figures running from it, and then all of a sudden it goes and it goes dark again. And I look over at my buddy Ray, and he's like, he didn't even say anything. He just had the craziest look in his eyes, like, and we just kind of looked at each other, and he's like, what did you see when you ran out there? Like, what just happened? And I told him what I saw, and I mean, that was probably that was pretty weird. I don't know what to even make of that, honestly.
Man, we live in a really strange world. Those encounters had a huge impact on James and the rest of his life. I mean, it really does. When you have these type of encounters, it changes you, and it's changed my look on a lot of things in the woods. I will not go off in the woods anymore alone like I used to, or way off, especially because you just don't know what's going on out there. And I think he's very fortunate to be here to share those encounters. And I'm just thankful that he sent me that email, that he was brave enough to come forward, because it takes a lot of guts to do that. And I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I know that after you hear these encounters, you walk away with a lot of questions. And, I always walk away with more questions than I have answers. But I do know one thing. I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for the support. I could not do this channel. I wouldn't be where I'm at without you guys, and just taking the time out of your busy schedules to watch these encounters. And the people who share this, they really appreciate it. It helps them a lot. It gets this stuff off their chest. And thanks for every comment, just for being here and being supportive of Mysteries Unknown. It means a lot to me. And we'll continue to bring you good encounters every single Monday. We'll be dropping an encounter, so you don't want to miss that. 11 o'clock Central every single Monday. You can count on it. There's going to be a new encounter here for you guys to listen to. Speaking of that, if you've got an encounter you would like to send me, I would love to hear it. You can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. Also, thanks to all the members. Appreciate all the support. Guys, stay prayed up. We'll see you in the next episode.